Creepers left and right, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to steal my lady. Spiders in the mirror and things can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spear drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue? Dreaming of those eyes.
Look at this rainy day. That's a Starbucks. It's right across the street from my gym. Hello everyone, welcome back to the vlog. I left my tripod at home. I usually keep it in my gym bag because I like to film videos right before I go into the gym. I don't know why. I am a weirdo like that. But I left it at home along with my tiny microphone, so this is all you get. But I just wanted to say that I am going to be starting a new vlog this week. It's the week before Halloween, and so this is my last chance to read spooky romances, Halloween-themed romances, or even, dare I say, something thrilling, chilling, horrifying. I don't know. I'm not sure what books I want to read this week, but I will tell you about the book I'm reading right now. I am currently reading Angelica Frankenstein Meets Her Match by Sally Thorne. I really didn't know anything about this other than I just saw it was sort of like a Frankenstein type of inspired retelling, and I love Frankenstein. I mean, I love everything about Frankenstein and Dracula. I love Mary Shelley, and I just thought it would be a fun read. So I did start that. I am only like 12 or 14% into it. I'm listening to the audio. And so far, it is reading classic Sally Thorne style. It's very fun, very comedic, very lighthearted. Even as they are picking through corpses, Victor is Angelica's brother, to try and find all of the parts to build the perfect physique for Angelica's man. She's a spinster, she is not in love, she really wants somebody to love her and care for her. And so, naturally, what are you to do when your brother is Victor Frankenstein? You build a man yourself, right? So there are some scenes that are definitely intended to be funny, where they're like body part shopping. And I do mean body part shopping. And so far it's engaging, it's fun, it's a little silly. It does have a little bit of an unsettling vibe, and I'm trying to decide if that is deliberate or not. So anyway, that's the book I'm reading right now. I just wanted to pop in and say hello, and I'm gonna go work out real quick and then listen to this book through the rest of the day as I work, and I'll keep y'all updated. Hello friends, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another clip of the vlog. That was unnecessary. I'm sorry, sometimes I feel like I'm Michael on The Office, where I need a Pam to like screen my intros when I talk to you so that she can be like, oh, sorry, missed that, do it again. Because obviously, like, I'm not gonna do it again. Anyways, hello, good morning. Today's Thursday. And I finished this book. I finished Sally Thorne's Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match. And I feel very conflicted about this book. I feel very conflicted about it. So obviously the whole premise of this is that Angelica is Victor Frankenstein's sister, and therefore, you know, she's a spinster. She has had not much luck trying to find a love match, someone to love her. And the thing that I think makes her endearing is that, like, the thing that she wants most in the world is someone to love her. She wants to be cherished by someone. She wants to be loved so badly. And so that's what motivates her to finally just go ahead and make a man of her own. However, I feel like this is where it gets to where it's tricky for me, because the opening scenes in this book are literally where she's shopping for body parts to build the perfect physical specimen of a man. And while it's written in a way to give, like, not quite slapstick, but really like a rom-com type of feel, like it's written to be funny as they're looking through all these bodies, and her, you know, Victor he makes like sex jokes the whole book through. Some of them are just like kind of uncomfy for me. Not kind of, they're just uncomfortable because, like, they're brother and sister, and, like, I don't care, they're not Targaryens. I'm not gonna get on board with that, you know. But not that he was making jokes about wanting her, but just like the way that they were like so open. He was so open. He was a very sexual person, and he was constantly referencing everything that he thought Angelica wanted in a man was that he could satisfy her sexually. And so that just felt a little weird, like the whole book through, you know? But the opening is written in a way to be funny when they're out shopping. Like, they're specifically looking for male parts, you know, looking for the biggest for Angelica's man that she's going to make, and Victor makes all these jokes about how, and it just felt real icky after, when it like didn't let up at all. And then when the man is actually brought to life, and he is just like fully brought to life, and he just has this, you know, how do I put this delicately for my YouTube channel? Basically, his blood all rushes to his groin, and his attraction is undeniable. However, it's an attraction that is against his will. It's not something that he doesn't feel attracted to Angelica. His body is just having this response, and it feels a bit gross. It really does. And I was talking to Jen about this, and she was like, oh, that's body betraying syndrome. That's exactly what it is. And it's like, that is exactly what it is, where his body is attracted to her, but he is not attracted to her. And it made for some really uncomfortable passages between the two of them. And I do feel like it was intended to just be funny, like this joke. But I just felt like it was a little tasteless, to be quite honest. I feel like it was a little tasteless. I feel like it was a little insensitive. And I found myself feeling really, really sad for the hero, whose name is Will. And I was also talking to Jessin about this. And she said, well, it sounds like she's just like making, you know, she made her own like sex robot. And so I'm like, yeah. So it's not my type of humor. It didn't land for me. I didn't like it. And when I was talking to Jen about this, she's like, so what's the point? Like, is she going to do something with that? Is she taking the Frankenstein theme seriously, and she's going to talk about bodily autonomy? And the way that it was set up, where this man was brought to life, his body was changed. It's not his own whole body when they brought him back to life. Like, he's sewn, bits and pieces are put together for what Angelica thinks is the most beautiful man, the most physically attractive man. And so when Jen mentioned that, you know, I wasn't really thinking that Sally Thorne would have a message like that in here, because that's just not her vibe. You know, she writes rom-coms, she writes funny, she writes swoony. And I do feel like I really enjoy her writing style. I find her writing very readable and very engaging and honestly pretty fun. But her stories really don't land for me very much at all. And that's exactly what happened here. So I was, you know, the whole theme of Frankenstein is really one of bodily autonomy, one of the themes, and the original Frankenstein. So I was kind of interested to see if she was going to play into that a little bit, and I don't feel like she did at all. I feel like this kept things pretty close to a surface level, although there were some interesting things regarding religion in the end that I liked a lot. You know, because Victor Frankenstein he's a scientist, he doesn't believe in God, he is trying to play God by building and creating humans. So I feel like this book was overall a bit of a miss for me. There were parts of this that were truly fun to read. You know, like I said, like if there's one thing that really can get me into an author's work, it's their writing style. And I think that Sally Thorne has a really good writing style. I think she is just compulsively readable. And I think that says a lot to why The Hating Game is so popular, you know? It's just a good story. It's just I don't know if that's the right word. I don't want to say it's a good story. It's addicting writing, you know? So, and like, I know every time that I like deep dive into a book and I'm talking specifically a romance book, I inevitably get people who are like, it's not that deep. It's not that serious. But like, that's just the kind of reader that I am. And I do feel like a lot of these authors give me material for what I'm thinking is going to be, they're going to do something with this material. They're going to show it in a way that gets me thinking about why they included this specific thing in here other than just laughs about cock shopping, you know? And I don't think that she ever really broke the surface of that. I think this is literally just almost a complete surface level book, or just barely below the surface, and that's fine. That's fine. But I do personally feel like if you're going to talk about things that have connotations for bodily autonomy, specifically Frankenstein, like, I don't know why you wouldn't try and incorporate something to make it feel like you are addressing those concerns in a way that where you can use your comedy, but you can also show, and I mean, like she did in a way, but I do feel like this book was largely just for like laughs and heartwarming stuff, and that's where it kind of fell flat for me, because I again, it's very similar in the way that The Ruin of Evangeline Jones had, like, it was dealing with some content and some themes that I felt like could be explored really wonderfully, and then I just felt like they kind of weren't. That's kind of how I feel like this one went, only like a bit more obviously she had these themes in here that could have been handled really well, and then ultimately just were not. So I can't say that I recommend this book. It did give me really fun Frankenstein right before Halloween vibes, which I liked. So I think if you're looking for a lighthearted Frankenstein retelling that is going to give you like a slightly spooky vibe, I would say I would recommend this. Yeah, sure. But I would also say, like, you know, there are parts of this that are uncomfy, and I don't feel like that uncomfortableness was intended. You know what I mean? I feel like some books put uncomfortable material in there to get you thinking and to have you questioning things. And I don't really feel like that is what she was doing here. So I don't know. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It's not the worst thing I've ever read by far, but it's also certainly not one of the best. So I would say I would super cautiously recommend this. The audiobook was pretty good. I liked the narrator. I mean, it was a fun read, but not a satisfying read, you know? So anyway, I read it. That was like high on my radar, because I'm like, if I don't read this year before Halloween, I'm probably not going to. So I read it. I'm proud of myself. And it was definitely fun at times, but it was also super not perfect. So moving on. So now I was torn between what to pick next, because I really want to read vampire books, and I was so tempted to read Kresley Cole one, my favorite one with Naomi and Conrad, Dark Needs Night's Edge. I love that book so much. I hope I got the title right. You know how I am. I get on camera and I say titles or names, and I'm like, afterward, I'm like, that was 100% not accurate. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That's my favorite Kresley Cole book. However, I decided that I would go with this book, which I did see the audio for. I picked up the audio. I used a credit for on Audible because I really like this author. I've only read one of her books before. She writes YA fantasy, and she also writes fantasy romance. And this series, I think, is pretty fun. She's a really beautiful writer. I think that she has a really good way of creating fantasy worlds that feel like you can easily step into. I don't feel like there's a huge barrier to entry to get into her fantasy worlds. I like that a lot. That makes them easy to read and makes me want to pick them up right away, you know? Sometimes I have to psych myself up to pick up a book that is like a huge investment in terms of getting into the fantasy world, and I don't feel like that's something that she does. I think her fantasy worlds are very, very beautiful and also very well crafted, I think, for what she's doing. I've only read the first book in this series, which is, I think, the Elf one, which I did enjoy that. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star read. So I'm hoping that this one is a 4-star read too. This is a part of her series, which is like Married to Magic. So the whole premise of this series is that the heroine in some way ends up making a bargain or a deal with whoever the magical creature is, and they enter into a marriage to sort of save her people, but she's going to be the key to saving his people. That's at least how I feel like the premise is definitely going for this one and the first book that I read in the series. So the heroine is what is called a Forge Maiden, and she is like responsible for making silver, which is the only thing that kills vampires. And the vampires in this book are kind of like mindless. They are a huge threat. They almost read a little bit like zombies in that way, where they take over like the human that they attack and consume, and then they're able to take over their looks, but they're not like the vampires that we think of, like the seductive, highly intelligent vampires, but except for the vampire lord, whose name is Reuven. So the blood moon comes, and her people are out to sort of push the vampires back to keep their community safe, and her brother ends up, who is like a big warrior at the time, he ends up in mortal peril by the vampire lord, and she ends up making a deal with him, with the vampire lord, that she will go with him and I guess essentially marry him. It doesn't say marry, but she ends up being captive by him, and in exchange he will save her brother's life. So this is really pretty good. I'm only a few chapters into it, but I'm very interested in it, and I'm hoping that I really like it. I know that in her first book, it felt adult, but it was also like fade to black. So I'm thinking that's what this one will be too, and I don't have a problem with that. I am just mentioning that so that if you decide to pick this up, that you will have that information and that will help you make your decision. So I will come back and update you once I have more to say on this, or once I've finished it. I'd like to include one more book, and I think I know what I'm going to pick, but we'll see how long it takes me to finish that, because it's Thursday and I'd like to have this vlog done by Saturday so I can edit it and get it out. So we'll see. Anyway, that's the update for you. So I hope y'all are having a good week before Halloween and are having a lot of fun, and I'll see you all in a bit when I have more to say about some books.
The last breath of summer is blowing down our necks, and soon we'll wave goodbye to the fleeting bliss. Because you are like a tidal wave, ripping up my life, not living without a trace. And you know that I'm your silent patient. You know I'm your silent patient. I've been waiting.
Hello, Cosmo. Hello, friends. Okay, this is just a really quick reading update. It's been over a day. I'm sorry, he kept bonking my tripod. It's been over a day since I started this book, Duel with the Vampire Lord, and I'm struggling through it. I'm so bored. I am this far into it. That far. And, like, it's not that it's bad. It's not that the writing is bad. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. The writing is good. The plot is good. The plot is good. The characters are fine. There's nothing necessarily terrible about this book, but I am so incredibly bored. And I think it's because this is doing exactly what every other vampire romance I have ever read is doing. There's nothing fresh. There's nothing new. There's nothing unique. The characters feel very stereotypical. The plot seems very derivative. And I'm disappointed. And, like, look, when I open up a vampire romance, I don't necessarily want them to, like, reinvent the wheel. But I do want there to be something that is intriguing me or presented in a fresh way that makes me feel like this isn't the exact same book that I've read a million times before. And the thing that I think is really making this not work for me is that it feels distinctly YA. Like, there are not even battle scenes, like fight training scenes between her and the vampire lord, and it literally feels like I've read this a million times before in YA books over a decade ago, you know? Like, without the chemistry that, like, Rose and Dimitri had from Vampire Academy, you know? So, I want to DNF this. I really want to DNF this because I'm just so bored that I find myself literally doing anything else other than turning this audiobook on, like, and I'm disappointed by that. And it's not even that, oh goodness, this is what happens when I try to hold my tripod. It gets too heavy for my little shoulder. So I don't hate it, but I also am not captivated enough to be having a great time. However, I am going to finish it, but I'm going to take a break while I finish work for the day because Like, it's so hard for me to sit at my desk and work when I'm listening to something that I'm not enjoying. Like, I don't know why. So, yeah, that's kind of a bummer, kind of sad. And I do feel like there are elements to this plot that could be fresh and unique, but again, like, it feels like every time that I think she's going to do something that has a little bit of a twist on a very traditional, very, very, very much oft repeated over a decade ago, like vampire romance, I keep thinking, you know, she has the potential, she could do something different with this, maybe she will, and then she goes right back into those familiar patterns that all of us, most of us knew and read in, like, whenever the Twilight boom and the paranormal romance boom happened, you know? So, and also another thing about this book specifically is, so because this is, like, in her Married to Magic series, and I read the first book, Married to Magic, I liked the first book a lot, but the way that in this book, the way the heroine and the hero, like, end up in their arranged marriage, or their, you know, she's, like, taken captive, kind of a la Persephone, it's almost identical to A Deal with the Elf King, which was the first book. Let me grab that one. Like, it just feels like too much the same. This was the first one. And when I read this initially, I was very charmed by it. I thought it was really, really fun and really good. And it wasn't a 5-star read, but I was like, I enjoyed that. But this book is significantly longer, this vampire book right here. And it's boring me. It's boring me a lot. So I just wanted to update you with that because I'm going to finish this book because I bought the audio, like, I paid for it. So I'm finishing it regardless, like, but it might take me to the end of the weekend, so I don't know that I'm going to get another book read for this. Oh. Okay, I'm going to go back to work now. I just wanted to pop on and say, and whine for a minute, that I'm just bored. I just don't like that. I feel like, especially with a vampire romance or a vampire premise, like, you need to kind of freshen it up a little, and I'm just not really getting that, because even when she takes the vampires in a different direction, like, oh, and by the way, they're not vampires, they're vampires, which, no, we've never seen that before, right? I don't mean to be salty, because I do like this author, but I can't deny that I'm disappointed, because I was expecting a lot, and maybe that's my fault, but I'm just very, very bored. I'm very bored, and I am very sad about it. So, okay, I'm gonna go work and find something else to listen to for a minute because I need to be entertained while I'm working. I will check in with my final thoughts. Maybe the next time you see me, I'll be pleasantly surprised and just have really enjoyed the heck out of it. That would be great, right? See you guys later. Hi, friends. Okay, so tonight I'm in here with Wanda. Hi. Hi. Hi, baby. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Look at the bones. Yeah? You say hi?
I've got them separated right now just because if I don't, they just play nonstop and it's not good for my husband's asthma. So, okay, I finished this book. Let me switch hands. I finished this book and it remained very average, very just okay. I gave it 3 stars and it makes me sad because, like, honestly, the cover is so freaking gorgeous. I really, really love the cover. I like the concept. I like the concept of the series. I like this author's writing. Her writing is solid. I just feel like this never really went anywhere special or it did anything new that I hadn't seen done 100 times before, you know? And I feel like this does have the potential to be somebody's favorite book. But it just feels like in a sea of new authors, in a sea of Cosmo's not happy, he wants to be in here. In a sea of, like, new talent, new writers, this just feels very, very average. And it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, it just honestly bored me a lot. So 3 stars for this one. And I mean, like, it's not that I don't recommend it, it's just that it wasn't anything special, you know? I don't know. And 3 stars for this one, and I feel like this one is a pretty high 3-star, like I almost think this is maybe closer to a 4. Every time that I do a vlog lately, I feel like Will you stop? I feel like I rate a book low and then I read another one and I'm like, actually that first book wasn't so bad. Let's rate that higher. So this is probably more of like a 3.5 rounded up to 4 because this was fun and this was engaging and like I enjoyed the reading experience of this. It just... So yeah, I'm going to do 3.5 rounded up to 4 for this one because it was definitely better. So there's my week of spooky-ish vampire Halloween reads. I was definitely hoping, what is the matter? For more.
What's wrong?
But yeah, it just, like, the whole time that I was reading the Elise Kova book, The Vampire, it just got me thinking so much about evolving as a reader and how the books that maybe start you down a certain path of a genre that you like or a subgenre that you like or a particular type of story or even just reading in general, I think you usually end up looking for more extreme sometimes. And I think that extreme can manifest in a lot of different ways. Like I know several book people that I follow that I've seen that happen with them, and usually what they end up looking for is more spice, different kink, different type, you know, like that, or maybe like darker themes in dark romance that they want to read, and that's just fine. And I think sometimes for me, when I don't know that it's necessarily an extreme thing that I'm looking for. I think what I'm looking for is a better crafted execution. And like, I don't necessarily mean beautiful prose. I think what I'm trying to get at is that what I want is something mundane made exceptional. And that's why I feel like this book, this vampire book, is so disappointing for me, is because it's not that it's mundane, but it is a concept that, you know, is very popular in vampire books. And I was hoping that there would be something in here that was like special for me, or maybe like a different type of twist or something. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's been so much conversation, specifically on Book Talk recently, about both anti-intellectualism, which I found to be really, really fascinating. There was like this demand, this thirst, this expression of feelings for more in books rather than just reading for, like what I was talking about earlier, sort of like extreme content, you know? And then, like, almost right on the heels of that, there was this big conversation on Book Talk about kind of dissing on some of the popular romances that get recommended, spicy books that get recommended, and the girl said, oh, well, you've never read classic literature. And I feel like I really struggle with that, but the thing that I struggle with that is when people seem to either have a binary type of approach where you're either someone who loves classic literature or you really love finely crafted prose, like literary fiction types of things that have like themes, things you can discuss, or like that's the extreme, or you only like trashy books. And I say that lovingly because I enjoy trashy books as well. And it just feels like there's no room for an in-between. There's no room for any type of subtlety. And I feel like, I mean, I've expressed this before, but I definitely feel a little out of place because I don't read as fast, and so I'm not the girl to come to who just has like a ton of new recommendations you've never heard before. One, because I don't read as quickly, and two, because I rely so much on audiobooks, and most of the time, unless it's a traditionally published book with which most people are going to hear about, indie authors don't release their audiobooks first. So anyway, this isn't like poor me, but I feel like what I have as a strength, and it also can be a weakness, is thinking about why books work for me and trying to put it into words why I think books don't work for other people in like a general type of way, you know? Like if a book isn't getting good reviews or good traction, I like to be able to try and pinpoint why I think that is. And this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is gospel truth for anybody out there in the world, but I definitely feel like I haven't gotten any pushback from you guys here at all. Y'all are wonderful and you enjoy my content and I'm grateful for that. But I've definitely seen it a little bit on TikTok where people are like, it's not that deep, and I mentioned that earlier in the video, or why do you want to think so hard about these? And like, I just like to. That's just the type of reader that I am. And now I'm sort of hedging into what I want to do an individual video about, which is does your reading taste evolve? Has my reading taste evolved? Do I like different things now than I did before? And I feel like the blanket answer for that is of course. Like every single reader's taste evolves the more time they spend reading books. And I think specifically if you are a reviewer, whether you're reviewing in writing, even if you're just rating star ratings, I think that by the nature of reviewing books, this has become very apparent to me by the type of content that I make, which I was talking about earlier. Duh. I'm so sorry if this is coming out stupid. Like, I feel like I'm getting sick, like I have a sore throat. But I feel like the very nature of the type of content that I make makes me that type of reader, where I'm aware of things, where I'm very much aware of things that I want to see in books and things that I don't like seeing in books. And I think that also comes down to the fact of how I've had some training in editing, like not like at a job, but working with critique groups and editing novels down to how would this be more readable? How would this find the right audience? How can I make this a more engaging story? So I think every time, and this isn't always, but definitely since I've had this channel, every time that I talk or I'm reading a book that I know I'm going to talk about, I'm instantly looking for that. And it's not even necessarily a conscious choice. I think that's just the default that my brain moves into. I don't know. It's Saturday night. I've had these thoughts just in my brain so much lately. And I feel like they always come out in my vlogs when I'm talking to you guys about books, but I don't know. I don't really know what my point was. Just that I find it really interesting how there seems to just be so much judgment in bookish spaces and on any platform, YouTube, Bookstagram, BookTok, for if somebody reads a different way than you do, or if somebody likes a different type of book than you do. It seems like the gut response is, well, you only like highbrow literature, or you only like trash. And I just feel like nobody really is at either one of those all the time. Like, I feel like if somebody says that they only like the highest quality literary fiction at all times, like, they're probably not reading very much. Because it's just impossible to, And I likewise feel like if somebody, and I say trash, lovingly, but if somebody, and trash applies to more than just romance, that applies to thriller, general fiction, anything. I think a lot of people think YA books are trash, If that's all that you're eating, all that you're consuming, you're probably not completely satisfied, I don't know. I feel like the year of 2022 has made me very aware of how I read, how I rate and review books, how I talk about books, things that I think about, but not just in myself. I feel like that has extended into an awareness of how other people do that too. And I just think it's really interesting. If you watch my vlogs, you've probably heard me mention this before, and I hope you're not tired of me talking about it, because I'm probably not going to be done. But anyway, yeah, kind of a disappointing reading week. Which makes me sad, because both of these books, I had such high expectations for both of these. I thought I was going to love both of them. I really, truly did. Like, I don't ever pick up a book thinking I'm going to hate it. I really don't. I don't just read to critique a book. I try to go into every single book that I pick up with, like, I'm gonna like this. And maybe part of that is me thinking a previous version of me would have liked this, Because I feel like with this book, if I had read this book 10 years ago, I probably would have freaking loved it, But over the course of time, I no longer am satisfied with that. I'm looking for more. I'm looking for something else, Anyway, that's a long conversation. This vlog has been very long for 2 books. And I'm going to just say one more thing, that I think I'm going to take... God, he does not like being left out, but I kind of rotate them in my studio if I'm separating them a little bit, because 2 giant dogs playing all the time in your house is a lot. And you don't have manners sometimes, so you have to be over there. Anyway, I think I'm going to take November off from vlogging, unless I just do kind of a spur-of-the-moment vlog here and there, to get ready for Vlogmas in December. So I do plan to still have 1 video a week come out. we'll see if I can stick to that plan. So if you have video ideas or conversation topics you'd like for me to do in just a video, I'd love to hear that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this vlog. I'm sorry it was a bit disappointing. And you're welcome to leave me a doggo emoji for these crazy doggos. And I'll see y'all in my next video. I very much apologize. I apologize for you. You're too loud. Bye.